everyone, my name is Rebekah and I'm a pastoral team member here at Faith Methodist Church. So today I'll be sharing with you this parable. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's a parable about a farmer whose horse ran away. And so there was this poor Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. And when his neighbors found out that his horse had run away, they all gathered around him and they said, "Oh, we are so sorry to hear about this. You must be so sad. What terrible luck this has been for you." And to that, the farmer said, "Maybe." And then the next day came around and surprisingly, the horse returned. And the horse brought with it 7 other wild horses. In the evening, all the neighbors gathered around once again and said to the farmer, "Oh, what great luck this was. It's a great turn of events. You now have 8 horses. Like, wow, right?" But to that, the farmer responded, "Maybe." And then the following day, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses. And while riding it, the son was thrown off the horse's back and the son broke his leg. Once again, the neighbors gathered round and said, "Oh dear, what bad luck this was." And the farmer responded once again, "Maybe." And then the next day came around and the emperor declared war on the neighboring countries. And he ordered that all able-bodied men should join the army. And so in that war, many lives were lost, if not, people came back injured. Only the farmer's son was spared because he had broken his leg and was rejected from the army. And so once again, of course, the neighbors gathered around and said, "What a great turn of events! You have such good luck." And to that, of course, the farmer responded, "Maybe." And now that's the end of the parable. You might be thinking, what does this story have to do with the vision in Daniel 8? Because Daniel 8 is a vision of terrible things to come, bad things after bad things. There's no maybe about it. It's just terrible. Well, it might surprise you to hear that even though Daniel lived in the 6th century BCE, scholars actually say that this chapter was written in the 2nd century BCE. So although it appears to be written in a very cryptic manner about the things that would happen in the future, this history would have been known to those who read the book at the time. And in a sense, this vision looks back at the history of Israel and how God's people had suffered under various rulers. If you were to ask them to wonder if maybe it was good at the time, I doubt that anyone would have thought that. And yet, in this vision of Daniel 8, God still sends his angel Gabriel to explain the vision to Daniel. He sends his angel, why? To remind us that there is still a godly perspective to viewing history. There is a godly perspective to viewing the so-called terrible things that are happening in the world today. It is a reminder to us that God understands what is happening and is still in control. And so for us as Christians, there will be times when it feels like there is no option for a maybe. It's just plain bad. We fear that our situations are beyond any redemption. And like Daniel in chapter 8, we feel tired from just looking at all the terrible things that are going to happen. In fact, even now in our world, there are so many wars that abound with no end in sight. Interest rates are down, and what hope is there that we can cling to in such times? Well, going back to the parable of the Chinese farmer, we see that things that people thought were bad sometimes, well, the things that the neighbors thought were bad, sometimes ended up being things that were good for the farmer. If the first horse had not run away, he would not have had 7 new horses. If he did not have the new horses, his son would not have broken his leg. And if his son did not break his leg, then his son might have died in the war. Now, we don't know how the story concerning this Chinese farmer ends, because his story only ends with maybe. It still has more to go on. Will his last maybe be in response to something that appears good, or will it be in response to something that appears bad? It's a mystery. But the end for us Christians is not a mystery. Thankfully, we have this assurance that Christ will come once again in final victory. And on that day, we will rise once again together with him. So if we continue reading the book of Daniel, you'll see later on in chapter 12 that at the end of the chapter, there is a man clothed in linen telling Daniel, "As for you, go your way till the end. You will rest. And then at the end of the days, you will rise to receive your allotted inheritance." And like Daniel, we too will rise at the end of days because we believe in Jesus and we have eternal life. So we do not need to live in fear forever, but we can cling on to the hope that when God comes again in final victory, we will be there with him and we will be celebrating in heaven. So the next time something bad happens to you, consider responding not just with a maybe even, but instead with the hope that maybe it's actually good. That maybe it's a good thing because God is using your situation to transform you to his perfect will. Trust that at the end of the day, God is still sovereign. He is still in control. So instead of worrying, hope in his final victory when he comes to establish his kingdom once again.